Jerusalem Delivered by Torquato Tasso. 20th Book. The pagan host arrives, and cruel fight makes with the Christians in their faithful power. The Soldan longs in field to prove his might, but the old king quits the besieged tower. Yet both are slain, and in eternal night a famous hand gives each his fatal hour. Renauld appeased Armida, first the field the Christians win, then praise to God they yield. The sun called up the world from idle sleep, and of the day 10 hours were gone and past, when the bold troop that had the tower to keep espied a sudden mist that overcast the earth with murksome clouds and darkness deep, and saw it was the Egyptian camp at last, which raised the dust for hills and valleys broad that hosted overspread and overload. There with a merry shout and joyful cry the pagans reared from their besieged hold. The cranes from Thrace with such a rumour fly, his hoary frost and snow, when Hyam's old pours down, and fast to warmer regions high, from the sharp winds, fierce storms and tempests cold. And quick and ready this new hope and aid, their hands to shoot, their tongues to threaten made. From whence their ire, their wrath, and hearty threat proceeds, the French well knew, and plain espied, for from the walls and ports the army great they saw, her strength, her number, pomp, and pride, swelled their breasts with valor's noble heat, battle and fight they wished, arm, arm, they cried. The youth to give the sign of fight all prayed their duke, and were displeased because delayed till morning next, for he refused to fight. Their haste and heat he bridled, but not brake, nor yet with sudden fray or skirmish light of these new foes would he vain trial make. After so many wars, he says, good right it is that one day's rest at least you take, for thus in his vain foes he cherish would the hope which in their strength they have and hold. To see Aurora's gentle beam appear, the soldiers armed, pressed, and ready lay. The skies were never half so fair and clear as in the breaking of that blessed day. The merry morning smiled, and seemed to wear upon her silver crown sun's golden ray, and without cloud, heaven, his redoubled light, bent down to see this field, this fray, this fight. When first he saw the daybreak show and shine, Godfrey his host in good array brought out, and to besiege the tyrant Aladine, Raymond he left, and all the faithful rout that from the towns was come of Palestine, to serve and succour their deliverer stout, and with them left a hardy troop beside, of Gascons strong, in arms well proved, oft tried. Such was Godfredo's countenance, such his cheer, that from his eye sure conquest flames and streams. Heaven's gracious favours in his looks appear, and great and goodly more than erst he seems. His face and forehead full of noblesse were, and on his cheeks smiled youth's purple beams, and in his gait, his grace, his acts, his eyes, somewhat, far more than mortal, lives and lies. He had not marched far ere he espied of his proud foes the mighty host draw nigh. A hill at first he took and fortified, at his left hand which stood his army by. Broad in the front, behind more straight up tied, his army ready stood the fight to try. And to the middle word well armed he brings his footmen strong, his horsemen serve for wings. To the left wing, spread underneath the bent of the steep hill that saved their flank and side, the Roberts twain, 2 leaders good he sent. His brother had the middle word to guide. To the right wing himself in person went, down where the plain was dangerous, broad and wide, and where his foes with their great numbers would perchance environ round his squadrons bold. There all his Lorrainers and men of might, all his best armed he placed in chosen bands, and with those horse some footmen armed light, that archers were, used to that service stands. The adventurers then, in battle and in fight well tried, a squadron famous through all lands. On the right hand he set, some deal aside, Rinaldo was their leader, lord and guide. To whom the Duke, in thee our hope is laid of victory, thou must the conquest gain. Behind this mighty wing so far displayed, thou with thy noble squadron close remain. And when the pagans would our backs invade, assail them then, and make their onset vain. For if I guess aright, they have in mind to compass us, and charge our troops behind. Then through his host, that took so large a scope, he rode and viewed them all, both horse and foot. His face was bare, his helm unclosed, and ope lightened his eyes, his looks bright fire shot out. He cheers the fearful, comforts them that hope, and to the bold recounts his boasting stout, and to the valiant his adventures hard. These bids he look for praise, those for reward. At last he stayed where of his squadrons bold, in noblest troops assembled was best part. There from a rising bank his will he told, and all that heard his speech thereat took heart. And as the molten snow from mountains cold runs down, and streams with eloquence and art, so from his lips his words and speeches fell, shrill, speedy, pleasant, sweet, and placed well.